Hey, I'm Randy, and this is RPG. I needed to replace the bearings in my bandsaw wheels, and while I was at it, I made some new wheels. I started by laying a sheet of MDF on a few 2x4s on the floor and used my circular saw track board. It's much easier and safer to break down sheet goods this way than it is trying to cut it on the table saw. Next, I cut the wheel blanks out on the table saw. Here, I'm just laying out the center point of each blank, and also marking where I want the holes in the wheels to go, and where the bearing blocks will be glued. I used 2 pieces of wood glued together to help guide my drill bit straight. This hole will also help me line up the wheels when I glue them together. I put my circle cutting jig to good use on this project. I set the router at a shallow depth, made my first pass on all 4 blanks, reset the router for a deeper cut, and repeated the process until I was almost all the way through. MDF makes a lot of nasty dust, and very quickly I realized that if I take the table saw insert out, I could use the dust collection to keep it to a minimum. It wasn't perfect, but it sure helped a lot. When I had about a 32nd of an inch left, I just trimmed off the corners and used my trim router to flush up all the edges. I'll speed this part up a bit because watching it glue up is almost as much fun as watching paint dry. I set up my circular saw trackboard again to cut the bearing blocks out of 1/2-inch cabinet grade plywood. Oh, there's my dog. Hi, Coco. 2 pieces of this plywood will be glued together to make a 1-inch block. I I used a stop block on the miter saw to make all the pieces the same size. After the wheels dried, I used a 1/8 inch bit to drill a pilot hole for the hole cutting bit. Then I installed what I like to call the drill bit of death into my drill press and started practicing my wood burning skills. After I got about halfway through, I flipped the wheel and drilled from the other side to complete the cut. And I got these really cool hamburger donut looking things. Then I switched out to a smaller hole cutting saw and continued my wood burning. A small metal brush came in real handy for removing the MDF crap from the teeth of the bit. I used the drill bit of death again to cut a hole into one piece of the bearing block, just smaller than the bearing itself. The vise helped persuade it into place. Time to glue those together now, making sure not to put the glue too close to the bearing. Back to the wheels. I used my router table and a 1/8 inch roundover bit to round over all the holes I cut. And yes, I realized I was going the wrong way on the first hole. That's better. So much easier when you go the right way. Okay, time to glue one of the bearing blocks to one side of the wheel. I used a piece of the same shaft material as a guide to help line up one side. I went back later and sanded out that middle hole with a drill and a small sanding bit so it wouldn't interfere with the shaft later on. The second bearing block was a little more tricky. I clamped the shaft material to a sawhorse, added glue to the block, and clamped it lightly into place. The trick was to knock it around with a hammer and a block of wood so they lined up perfectly, or at least as close as I could get to it. I should probably have used Titebond 3 here so I'd have a little more set time, but with a little gentle persuasion, both wheels wound up really straight. Maybe a 32nd of an inch of play. Not perfect, but damn close. And set that aside to dry. Okay, time to disassemble the bandsaw. I used the bandsaw itself as a lathe to turn the wheels true. For the crown of the wheel, I did the same thing that Marius Hornberger did for his new wheels. I'll leave a link to his in the description below. Now for some protection. There's the new drive pulley, also out of MDF, on the lower left. I'm using shellac for both wheels and the pulley since I don't want any moisture to mess up the MDF. I put 2 coats on each. The next day, I finished it up with some paste wax to make the wheels really smooth. The idea is that no sawdust will stick to the wheels as time goes on. Will it work? I don't know. We'll see. I really like paste wax as a finish, except for the buffing part. Wait. I have a better idea. This made it go a lot quicker. Okay, time for some new tires. I used 12.5-inch bicycle inner tubes for this one. Just gotta trim them down to size. There's a cruddy white powder on the inside that I had to wash off before I put them on the wheels. I thought it would be more difficult than it was to get them on the 16-inch wheels, but it really wasn't that bad. And after balancing, there are only 4 small holes in the drive wheel and 3 on the other one. Alright, so here it is. The new bandsaw wheels are complete, the blade is installed, and it is running like a champ. No, I'm not going to do the coin test to see if it is balanced. It's balanced. It's just not going to be that way with the coin test because of the casters that it's on. Now, I ran into a few problems along the way. For starters, the wheels are 1.5 inches thick because I used 2 3/4-inch pieces of MDF instead of the 1-inch thick that the original wheels were. I also made them a little bit larger in diameter. These are pretty much dead on 16 inches across as opposed to 15 3/4-ish that they were before. So I had to make some adjustments for that. I had to route out a groove on the inside of this piece here so that the blade would clear. These cutouts down here and over there, I had to cut those out and route out a groove in the top of each one of those as well. And because they're also thicker, that means that I had to cut a hole in the front plate so that the yeah, oh well, life goes on, right? Same thing with the bottom piece. The wheels are a lot thicker, so yeah, had to cut a hole in that as well. So I'm gonna make a cover for this plate so that that'll get taken care of and covered up, and I can use the dust collection properly. But other than that, I'm really happy with the way these things turned out, and they look a lot better than what they did before. Much more balanced. They ride a lot more true on the inside as well, so I'm really happy about this. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'd appreciate it. I also started an Amazon store, so down in the description below you'll see a lot of the tools that I use with links, and if you purchase any of these items on Amazon, then I'll get a little bit of a commission off of it, so that'll help me out a little, and it'll also help support my channel. So that's it for this one. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.